Hi marketers, welcome to another episode of the Marketing Mavericks Show. Today we have a slightly different location. We're both here, Wasim and I, and our topic today is going to be content marketing for B2B companies and looking into, for example, blog content marketing, video marketing, or all kinds of social media platforms, and basically discussing what are the things that actually work and what are the tactics that's going to give you new business and leads. So I'm really excited for this conversation. Hi, Wasim.
Hey.
So let's get going. So first thing I'm curious about is how did you get started with content marketing?
So I started content marketing in 2016, 17. I knew obviously you had to have a blog, but I never knew what was the effort required to actually, write a blog and promote it and publish it. For every person I kind of speak to, their impression of a blog is you sometimes post one post a month and then you just keep something there for Google. But that time has changed. You have to really push hard to make content marketing work. So at that time I was writing all the blogs myself, but I then quickly realized that's very hard to maintain. I put together a list of questions which people were asking me every day. So the impetus was to put together a frequently asked question list as a blog post. So anytime a question comes in, I would write a topic around it. And then it moved on towards building it and growing it, where now we see results from it after 2-3 years.
Yeah. What would you say was a breakthrough learning for you in those, let's say, years of doing it that was something where you thought, now I can understand how this thing works?
I think, to be honest, there's a lot of credit we should go to Andy Castadina. He's from Orbit Media. He put together loads of content marketing stuff on YouTube. And after watching his videos and understanding how content marketing works, I really, had that eureka moment where I realized now, oh, this is how actually I should be doing content. Not just by doing a blog post, I would, think about it in a much more deeper level, but also at a 30,000 feet view, so that you see all your posts connected to each other and all the questions and topics. And that was the breakthrough moment.
Okay, and from when onwards did you start seeing any results that satisfied you?
I would say from 2018 really, only because we started putting together a plan, a content strategy, and we kept on creating consistent content. And I think that's kind of more important in Google's terms. They want to see your website continuously being up to date with lots of new content, and that's why Google visits you. It's like having a store where you put new stuff in your store so that customers can see new range and new products. So similarly, Google comes to your website and sees, oh yeah, you got something new, let me index it.
So it took quite a while. It took a few years. How many years? 3 years?
I would say in total 2 to 3 years, yes.
Okay, that's interesting. I think we're going to come back to that point when it's the right time to start looking into this.
Yeah. Because
that's a key question if someone has not started any content marketing efforts. So that's really interesting that it seems to me like a longer term thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So for someone who is a small business owner, who hasn't built a lot of digital marketing channels, who thinks of doing content marketing, where should someone like this start?
So initially, that's the kind of situation I was in. So I wanted to create blogs or write about content and didn't know exactly whether I should hire this person or whether I should do it myself. And the simple answer is you should do it yourself as a business owner first, just to kind of get into the grips of it and understand what works and what type of content you want to post. Because the kind of language you're going to use as an owner is not something which somebody else can replicate. So you have to set this tone and define the strategy and define the tone of voice, define your target audience. And then somebody can come in and follow that lead in a way. And you have to start putting this strategy in together first, in my opinion.
Okay. Yes, absolutely. I think it is all about authenticity. You know, why do people follow or read anything? People can easily read between the lines.
Yeah.
And so I think that's probably the key. You know, like don't think of getting someone else doing it for the sake of having it simpler. Or I think everything probably you start with doing the hard work first yourself.
Yeah, it's difficult to get somebody to buy into your vision from day one. But as a business owner, you know your customers, you know your problems, you would know what kind of questions that people ask, and then it's just then finding the right person who understands content marketing and then uses your brand's voice.
Yeah.
But it's way different to, for example, writing for a SaaS. I know, for example, you maintain and manage our content marketing, and from content marketing for a SaaS, it's difficult. It's kind of for me, it's different and difficult because you have to answer technical questions, but also like build up a content base around those topics. So, I mean, the question I think people usually ask me is, how and when do you think you will see results? So what would be your reply to it from a SaaS perspective?
Okay. Yeah, that's a good question. I think results, obviously we have to define first what a good result would be. I think it's not just to get visibility or traffic, although that is a good effect of it. It's ultimately to get signups or leads. To make that happen, although you can do it quickly, I plan in for a year. I plan it for 12 months, just out of the blue right now, or like, well, that's just what it is, you know, plan with that sort of time frame and beyond.
Yeah.
And still do it every day. You have this kind of macro perspective of the time it needs, and then you have the micro perspective of doing it every day, every week, getting new content published, maybe like 2 to 4 posts a month, ideally. So timing wise, that's what people should plan with. We've been doing it for now more than a year, and our results are pretty good, and especially the last, since May, so we have August now, so the last 3-4 months have been really good. Before that, we have seen growth every single month, but now it has kind of jumped up because of this consistent effort, because of it's kind of, I think the term is knock-on effect, or I think there's a word like, I think it just grows by itself, and it takes the momentum on itself. That's what I want to say.
That's correct. And when somebody says, I mean, when a client speaks to me, they say they want to do blog posts, but then I think somehow they mix blog posts with almost like news articles because they want to write about the current world, or they want to talk about what's happening right now. Would you suggest doing that, or would you suggest, no, that's not the right approach, because when the news dies, then your post will become irrelevant? Would you focus more on evergreen content?
I definitely focus more on evergreen content. Although I have to say I have not tried the other strategies, so there might be people who can make that work in some other way. But definitely, I think if you want to write about news content, then I would just put it onto, you know, Google has this feature where you can add it to your Google My Business profile. If you're a B2B business, you should think of doing it on some places like social media. Social media is a place for news content.
That's correct.
And whereas the blog definitely is evergreen content, which basically means just it's meant to be there for a longer time. And also Google's not going to put you onto the first page straight away. So it doesn't make sense to now write about the news story, whatever is in the news, even if it's national, global news, to write about something like that, even if it's related to your business. So what Google likes is to have evergreen content that gets updated all the time.
Yeah.
So that is the key to making it work and also rank and consistently rank. If you can just write a very strong, ideally long content piece on the blog, and then you update it basically every quarter, maybe.
Yeah.
So that's the key. So and also I'd maybe recommend even to not have dates on your blog.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
So you can kind of say, it's you can easily do that in your blog if you use WordPress or whatever system. You can kind of remove the dates. The date stamps.
Yeah, I've heard somewhere where, I don't remember the actual source, but it was more about your blog should be like a library, where, for example, you go to the library and you get that content, but it's not set in time. You know, it's not like a newspaper publication where you would put new posts and new news every day. It's more of a library where somebody can come in at any point and they can get that that content.
Yes, I heard something very interesting recently on an SEO podcast. There was a guest on there who said, if you search anything on SEO in Google, what will rank is typically older content still.
Yes.
Because those people know how to do SEO, they know even how to get old content to the top, which is kind of, I mean, that's now a different question to look at. But on the other hand, if those people would optimize it, they can. That's what it takes to get a better user experience. If you just have old content, get all the traffic because you know how to make it rank, it's not going to maybe give you the engagement and the leads from it. So updating content makes sense from so many different perspectives, not only for ranking, but also to get people to then take action.
Yeah.
What else? Let me see. There's also the opportunity to get to publish content on external platforms.
Yeah.
Like not just on your blog, but on Medium as a site, or Quora. What do you think of those platforms for B2B businesses?
I think those could be channels from where you put some of your teasers and get eventually people onto your blog. Because if you put all of your stuff inside Medium, then how would people come to your actual website? Because you want to have traffic coming to your website rather than just being on Medium and sharing a lot of value. I've seen that happen. There's so many posts on Medium which have blown up, and they do cleverly use it where they put like a call to action somewhere which brings them back to the website. But what happens next is, what if Medium changes their permissioning, or they change their way they work, or they monetize the whole thing? This is stuff which we are seeing right now with TikTok. So a lot of countries are banning TikTok. What if you were like an influencer on TikTok and all your content was in TikTok?
Yes.
And now suddenly TikTok is banned. What do? Do you start again from zero? Unfortunately, I have a pessimistic approach of, let's say, building all your content or all your almost like clout on different platforms.
Okay.
I would rather focus it on the blog, on the main website blog, because you have kind of control over it.
I fully agree with this. And why do you think so many people still put it onto external sites? Why is it so attractive?
I think because it's easy, maybe because people see there's already audience is there. A blog takes, as we know, it takes ages to get ranked, and you have to know so much about SEO. You need to know about page speed. You need to know about user experience. So there's a shortcut. Obviously, if you posted on Medium, Google has already indexed tons of things on Medium, and it takes care of like mobile friendliness or page speed or thousands of other little things which you have to worry about as a business owner or the owner of the blog. Yeah,
people are very impatient when it comes to making things like this work. So that's why we said early on, that's why I said plan with 12 months minimum.
Yeah.
But then what you can get from it is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, we get now dozens of clicks every day.
Yeah.
Every single day for relevant keywords.
Yeah.
So within a year. So I think that shows what opportunity there is and so on. Something else I wanted to ask you is, what should come first in a strategy of a business, and a marketing strategy? Ad campaigns or content marketing?
I think content marketing, as we know now, it's a long-term game. So if somebody wants to get free traffic from Google after a year, they should get into content marketing. But if they want results like tomorrow, they need to look at PPC and ad campaigns, because we know it's like a drug where you can get a hit from it straight away. But content marketing is organic, it takes time, but it's free traffic at the end of the day. But there is a lot of investment. Although we say it's free traffic, but we know how much it costs as well.
I was just about to ask you that. Like, how much money do you and your web agency put into content marketing?
I would say if I just look at the content producing aspect, it's about $1,000 give or take. But if you look at all the effort which goes into it in terms of marketing it, promoting it, and the tools which we use, it's easily about $2,000.
So it's $1,000, $2,000 a month.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And roughly, maybe it's not directly trackable, but how much business do you get from it a month?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I don't know the answer to that, to be honest, because it's very hard to track it. We are at the moment in the process of tagging everything. But it does influence a lot of stuff. And the most important thing which I would say is, although we have blogs which get us traffic, but we use the content of those blogs into our messaging. So for example, the emails which we send out, somebody has an objection, we point them to a blog post. So that way it becomes your arsenal for sales.
Yeah. So so you could say, though, you probably get a 2x, 3x ROI, is that right?
Most probably, yes. Otherwise, we would not do it. Yes.
Okay, that is good to know, and for probably a lot of people listening that are thinking of doing it.
Yeah.
And speaking of investment, if someone has not started such a campaign, how much money would they have to allocate?
I mean, initially, it's kind of up to them whether they want to have a third-party content writing service or they want to have a full team, because we have a proper dedicated kind of team or like members who are now focused on each step. So for example, there's content research, there's content writing, then there's SEO, and then we create the creatives of those blog posts, and then we publish it on our blog, then we promote it. So there's quite a few steps, and every step has like a person who's assigned for that particular role. But initially, obviously, you can't imagine of having like these many people.
Yeah.
You could start small by just doing it yourself. And the moment you see, okay, this is something which I don't like, you can then hire maybe like a freelancer in the beginning, because there's always somebody who likes what you don't like. We know that. So we know there's people like accountants and bookkeepers who love their job, and we don't like that stuff.
I don't know if you remember, I once researched based on personality types, what's the worst job for a certain personality type. I remember for you it said accountant, and for me probably, I don't remember, but it's just funny. And it's a good perspective to have. There's always someone who enjoys that.
Yeah, like social media posts, like it drives me crazy to put them on every platform, using the right imagery, using the right hashtags. It's too much to worry about.
I think for me it would be probably development work.
Yeah.
To go deep into something.
Yeah. So you need to obviously know your strengths, and as a business owner or an entrepreneur, you would know your strengths. And this awareness of knowing your strengths in content marketing is also important. So in the beginning, I just used to write the copy or the blog post, and then somebody else used to tidy that up, proofread it, put it on the website, improve it, draw the designs and everything. But nowadays, I literally don't. I'm slightly involved where I do a bit of research and bit of proofreading. That's it. I don't actually spend too much time in the actual work.
Yeah. So, and I wanted to also add, although you can easily spend quite a bit of money, and it's often needed for having a system, you don't probably need, or you certainly don't need any money to start. That's
correct.
So that's kind of my view on this. Simple example, you start creating a Facebook group.
Yeah.
That is a way of content marketing. You start doing a blog, you start doing a podcast, a radio show, whatever you want to call it. You can do that as one person. You can do it from your bedroom. The opportunities are pretty amazing what you can do these days.
I mean, it's all dependent on time. So for example, right now we're doing this podcast. We're not recording it in a professional studio. We are recording it in a studio which we own and we have control over it. So we have now become the producers, where it doesn't take us so much of money. It's just time, which is now we're exchanging for producing stuff. But most of the times it's just time.
Yeah.
It's not money.
One thing I would add though is that, you might think a podcast recording or whatever content piece you're creating takes you 30 minutes or an hour. Think of it this way. There's a lot of years before that to gain this knowledge. I'm saying this in a way to encourage people. For example, if you have a hobby or something, like whatever, gardening or kart racing, go-kart racing, whatever it is, it could be anything. You can make content or a community out of that. Yeah. Because you have put the time in, you might not even have...
So I know what you mean. It's like, for example, you do spend time on it, and subconsciously you gain all this experience.
Yeah, so it just, that's the thing that makes it work. If you just put a lot of effort in and spend the time, you can easily get content out, and you enjoy it. I think a lot of people are hesitant to get content out because they think it's hard work. But if you do it about something you enjoy, then
yeah, I think that kind of leads to my question, which I always think, whether it's like, should you be writing for Google or should you be writing for actual people? Where would you draw this balance? Because, I mean, let me explain my challenge. When we look at when we research a topic where we want to talk about something, and then we compare it with what is ranking out there, there's sometimes blog posts with so many keywords and so many topics, they've covered different angles. So now the challenge is, would you now replicate this by coming up with your angle on all these keywords and focus on, let's say, the quantity of, that topic? Or would you still focus on the quality and then only target a certain angle?
Well, I would 100% focus on the quality, because although there's ranking which ranks, which might not look good or might straight away tell you it's not actually great content piece, it doesn't mean it will stay there on top. If I do SEO content marketing, I'll do it with long-term perspective for years.
Yeah.
Again, evergreen assets, something like that. And that's why people get hit with these algorithm updates, because they're just replicating what's out there. They're following the most recent hacks, black hat things, whatever you want to call it. And that's why they get wiped out.
Yeah.
But if you do it with a completely different angle of just writing whatever provides the most value, then you have much better chances to actually rank quickly also these days and stay there for longer. So I would never focus on any sort of cheating the system. Although that doesn't mean you shouldn't do SEO. You should do everything you can in on-page SEO, in research of right keywords, all the rest of it, but not with the idea of just shortcutting it.
Okay, but that leads to my next question. I always have this challenge where, if your website's domain rating, which is kind of this metric, most of these tools have to determine your strength. So, for example, I think Ahrefs calls it domain rating, Moz calls it domain authority, and then there's other tools and other people call it different stuff. So if somebody with a domain rating of like 5, which is like low because they have a new domain, how would they ever rank? How would you build this strength that they would actually outrun somebody with a domain rating of 90?
Well, yeah, I think we talked about it in the SEO podcast. It's then about really building backlinks.
Yeah.
So there's two ways to build backlinks. One is through content. So, for example, if you have a really good post that a lot of people reshare, link back to you. And the other way is to build backlinks actively, right?
Okay, let's stick to the first point. So, for example, you said people will share it organically.
Yes.
How would that ever happen? Because your website won't appear anywhere because it's a new website. So it's like the chicken or the egg. You won't get those people in the first place.
Well, you have to promote those posts very hard, like across social media, across an email list. If you have that, if you don't have it, then across social media.
So do you say that social media counts into domain rating now?
No, it doesn't. But it would give you an opportunity to get the content seen. So, and then if you get it in front of as many people as you can, relevant people, then you have a chance probably of reshares. But I should maybe open this up a bit broader. To get people to reshare a post is also not so easy.
No.
You need to then really have something amazing.
Yeah.
You need to have something maybe with interactive elements like a calculator in there, or a demo form, or infographics is often a good thing for reshares. Without that, if it's just text, there's no way someone would link to that organically.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying the content has to be really good. And then you can achieve that. Otherwise, you have to actively build those links.
Yeah.
And then, how do you get the domain rating up? These two ways. But it's a matter of time.
Okay, tell me more about the backlink stuff. Obviously, we covered it in the SEO slightly, I think. And in content marketing, for example, I know this technique called skyscraper technique, where you look at an existing post and you almost like reverse engineer where they've got their links and how they've been able to rank, and then you reach out to them actively and then say, oh, by the way, this is my new take on this article, would you also link to this post, for example? what is the ABC of backlinking? How do you build backlinks for a blog?
So a very good tactic is to just have contributors working on the content with you from the start.
Yeah.
So just saying you do an article on, let's say, debt financing.
Yeah.
And then you reach out to your partners, your people you know, your network, and they will contribute with their own content, whether it's a quote or whether it is a video, whatever it is. Just a simple thing. They just contribute, and then they are willing to link to that piece from social media and from their website, possibly. So what happens is you involve people from the start. They are willing to then also help you promote it, which helps you increase the chance to get organic backlinks, and also maybe directly link back to you. You might even want to say, I'll make it a requirement. If you contribute, you'll get a backlink, but you also help me promote it once you launch. That is one good tactic. So your question was basically what they can do
for just creating backlinks, basically. So there's obviously one tactic of what you just mentioned, is like almost like a roundup post.
Contributors.
Yeah, or contributors. Is there like the other active element is like to reaching out to guest blog posts and all those things?
Yes, but that is, I think, is a completely different way of building backlinks. So I come to that. So I was just going to add one more tactic for the blog itself. If you have posted the blog on your site, the best thing you can do is ultimately just make it extremely insightful.
Yeah.
And as I said, like with infographics, with videos, with audio pieces, whatever you can fit in, what's valuable. And again, like what's really cool is those interactive maybe quizzes or like gamified forums, something like that. You know, that's the sort of stuff which even these days is not saturated. If you have a game which is unique, which people just want to do, if it fits to whatever industry, it's not like you can always do that.
Isn't there a term for it, kind of like a micro project or mini project?
There is a term called side project marketing.
Side project marketing,
but I guess you could call it that way, but it's still on your site. So side project would be on a different domain, right?
Maybe on a subdomain.
Yeah, so I think there's all these different variations. But then you said, for example, guest posts.
Yeah.
So guest posts is a different way to build backlinks, but it's not really based on how great your content is on your site. It's just based on providing ideally great content to other websites. That then link back to your, let's say, related post or to your homepage, whatever. That's kind of the active route of building backlinks.
Yeah.
Completely different. I would definitely do both.
Yeah.
I would not just rely on just hoping almost like to get someone to reshare my latest blog post.
So for example, if we talk about a B2B company, how would they build these backlinks, or especially like guest posts or all this stuff? Would they actively look for an agency, or how would a business owner even know this? Because most of the people I talk to, they don't know about backlinks.
Right.
So how would you start this introduction?
So are you talking now about the guest post specifically, or generally the backlinks?
Generally the backlinks, yes.
Yeah, that's a good question. I would probably not try to do it myself, this sort of stuff. Especially if you are an established business. You should not get obviously not yourself, or maybe not even your marketing team onto the groundwork of building backlinks, because there's, as you said, there's people who enjoy that.
Yeah.
So I would look at the right partners, whether it's an agency or sometimes a freelancer can work as well, or a combination of freelancers. You kind of build your own system with one person in your team coordinating everything. That's kind of my role right now. So with us, our team is in-house, and me, I'm kind of leading the sort of team, or I'm kind of like coordinating it, what we're doing. So you need someone who is let's say building the system, and then you have to have people that execute. But those people that execute, I think it's something so technical, so specific. It's just like, it's not something you'd learn now in a week. Yeah. Although, it may be possible, to understand the essentials, but then it's about doing it every day. And then what works every day is what you're used to, what your habits are. Yeah. Right? You're not going to now start a marathon by just getting on the grid. Yeah. You have to train. So what I'm saying is, work with those people who do this all the time. which also drives the cost down if you work with an agency. If you have an in-house person in the UK, that is probably whatever, 2, 3, 4 grand more. So that's gonna become expensive. If you work with an agency, they might charge you per link, they might charge you per guest post.
Yeah.
That's the best way, in my point of view.
Okay. And do you have any kind of predictions, or do you feel maybe Google will get super clever and understand these are not natural backlinks, and somehow, I don't know, this is like crazy thinking, but do you think it will backfire at some point?
Well, it's a very interesting question. Well, people kept saying that for years.
Yeah.
But then the question is, what is actually an unnatural backlink? If you do write a guest post with 500,000 words, like 500 or 1,000 words or more, that is not useless content. It is still for someone there to read.
Yeah.
You know, this content can't just be spam content. You also have to put effort into producing those content pieces, and then these are, and so yeah, it's not really possible to well, although there's different ways to kind of try to not do it without any value, or just like getting links from sites you own, whatever. There's all sorts of ways that people do. But if you do guest content, then you have to produce those pieces, and it's not really easily understandable if this is like now a specific guest post or not. And then even if it is, it's still a post. That's kind of my point.
Yeah.
And the other argument is people have kept saying that for years, and this sort of stuff still works. So no, but the one thing I'd say though is put the effort in. Put the effort into every angle. Starting with, where do you put those guest posts?
Yeah.
Don't put them on any sort of spam sites. Put them onto something which is related to your niche, where there is some sort of email list, a community. How can that ever be a problem? That's my thinking, right?
Yeah. I think now when I hear what you say, as a business owner, I would not worry about this, because it's so tactical. You want to hire a specialist who understands backlinking and does that for a living, because these guys, you know, they can live and breathe and understand which links are better, which are spammy. As a business owner, you don't know this stuff. This is far too detailed.
But you have to find the right specialist also.
Yes, that is, I think is my problem. Like, how would you find this person? But you need to somehow have the basics. Maybe like.
Well, if anyone needs a specialist, then just reach out to us. I'll give you some tips.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
Okay. The next, obviously, big thing is video. So we are doing this video right now. This is gonna go on our blog. We're going to break this into chunks and then use it for different pieces of content marketing, for example, for our social media posts, so for our FAQs. There's all sorts of ways we use this video. How do you envision somebody using video for their content marketing, and when should they start video?
Well, yeah, that's a huge, it's a difficult question, because it's different in terms of what type of person you are, probably also, and what industry, and it's all these different factors. In general, if you can do video, always do it, because it's way more engaging than text. If you can do audio, it might maybe even better, because people can listen to it, and while not watching, can listen to it in the background of their work. So yes, they should do that if they have the ambition to consistently do it, if they can see themselves doing it for a long time.
Yeah.
Because some people, you know, it's a personality thing also. Like, some people might not want to do it. Well, or some people just naturally don't feel it. You know, maybe I think generally a lot of people are hesitant to do it.
Yeah.
But then there's those people who know they're not made for that in a way, or it's just like not their strength. So what they then should better focus on is whatever, audio if that suits them, text. There's many different ways, and Gary Vaynerchuk wrote this in his book, Crush It. That's where I got that from.
But that is true. Of course, you need to pay, or you need to spend time where your strengths are. But if you, for example, if I consider myself, 2 years ago, if somebody said to me like, you should be doing video, at that point, absolutely, I wasn't ready in my brain. Or I was like too hesitant, just like the things which you just mentioned. But now when I think about it, I recently, or like know about this, Gary Vee said that as well, that if you are producing content, some people like to listen, some people like to watch videos, some people like to read. So if you just produce one piece of content, let's say just text, which is on your blog, then you're missing a big chunk of other people who don't read blogs. They only listen to stuff or they watch videos. So either you go focus on one particular niche of your audience, or you go wide by capturing more of your audience by producing different pieces of content.
Okay, and you're saying it could be either of those ways, or are you saying you would definitely recommend not to go with one channel? What's your view?
My view is yes. If unfortunately or fortunately, you have to go wide.
Okay.
Because your audience is everywhere. Like I recently spoke to one of my really good customers, and he said people at certain points, they then don't look at their social media. Even LinkedIn, like if you think about people working in financial institutions, VPs or C-level executives, they don't spend time on social media. They don't even read any blogs. So they have a particular community or tribe where they hang out. So you would never reach to them through this content which you produce.
Okay, yeah, I think I agree with a lot of that. I do think though that you don't have to do everything, or you don't have to take many channels. You can also do one channel if you pick the right one. And what you said, like with social media, people getting tired of it or it's not the right thing. You can overcome that just by always bringing something new. That's always on my mind. How can I always add something new? With our blog, for example, there's always little things we improve every day or like on a weekly basis. So I would say, although it is great if you have the scale, if you have the resources to do multiple channels, it's not a must. Especially if you're starting out as a small business owner, you could say, my thing is, I know I like to be a broadcaster, I like to do podcast, only audio. Then I'd say he can become a specialist with that, and the rest will happen. I think that's probably what happened to Joe Rogan. He used to be probably known before, but he just felt maybe that's his thing, podcasting, and the rest, the whole social media brands, the whole platforms around it, happened gradually with it.
Yeah.
So I think in whatever you do, if you enjoy something, if you feel this is the right channel, if you know your audience is on that channel, then I would just go with that. And then, things happen from there. But at the same time, I see your point in terms of you have to mix it up, or you have to keep the interest up.
Yeah, it's kind of, if you look at it, it's actually quite hard. It's really hard to focus on all these channels, on different parts of mediums of like producing content, and like for example, this podcast which we produce, there's so much effort which goes in the background, which people obviously are not aware of. So don't you think somebody who hasn't started this, they would get overwhelmed with all this stuff, and what would they do? Where would they start? It's
Yeah, of course.
I mean, although they might enjoy doing it, they might want to do it, but where would they start?
Yeah, they would start. There's always two ways of looking at it. So I think people create their own complexities or like their own challenges if they want to make everything perfect. There's a lot of, if you have, again, with that comes a lot of good things. So if you put effort into the right equipment, all of that, what we're trying to do now over time also, that is good. But if you are a one-person brand, a small business, then forget about that and just record maybe even with your phone audio. And get it out. It's always self-inflicted how complicated you create something.
Yeah, I think one of the things which I tell my customers, especially business owners, that they say, oh, I don't have the time to write all this content, too busy, this is so much stuff. But then can they actually produce just a WhatsApp note? So for example, they record what they have in mind and send it to a copywriter, because the copywriters, the content writers, they are very good at deciphering, all the stuff. If you just simply send them an audio note of like 2 minutes, they would extrapolate that into like a 2,000 word blog post. That anybody can do.
That's a very good point. And I think another thing you could just do is, I think a lot of people, probably every business owner thinks a lot for themselves. Why don't you just, while you're having these monologues with yourself internally, just record the audio, send it to someone, or use that audio and publish it. And then you say, I'll just like to document my journey in terms of what I'm doing, in terms of building my company and what I'm doing every day. That's another angle, just the documentation of what you do. and just without thinking, just get your phone out and record it, press the button, and yeah, just share what happened on the day.
Yeah.
So,
But okay, there's a big but for that. Like, what if you're a bigger company, like 200-300 people?
Absolutely.
You won't do that, isn't it? You won't have that casual approach. But the challenge then is, how do you get your team to write blogs? Because this is something which I recently asked you. Like, if you want to produce content, now you're a 300 people company, what would motivate somebody to write their blog posts?
Well, I think I have to say, first of all, I have not tried it in lead gen in our SaaS business, so I can't actively say what works, what doesn't work. But generally, I think it's hard to motivate people. You know, there's intrinsic and external motivation.
Yeah.
So if people are not intrinsically motivated, they might do it once or twice. But why would they do it then all the time? People stop losing motivation. So I think it's quite hard to get people to commit on writing a blog post. We've tried it, even like in the consulting work I used to do, tried that approach in terms of recommending that to clients. And then they always said, yeah, it's a great idea. And, you know, she can do this, he can do that. But then what actually happens is different from that idea.
Yeah.
So I would actually not try to do that route. I just straight away say, this is too complicated. It's a gamble, at least for me now, because I have not seen anyone really making it work. Although I know some agencies who kind of have it in that sense. One thing which might work is video, or might not work. You know, but just an idea I have is it's easier if someone sits on a chair, someone else records that person rather than to write. At least for me. So when I would think for most people, because they don't have to like actively think, what shall I write? They can just talk to the camera, and then you can make that a content piece. That could work. It could work if your team is big enough that a person only gets to contribute every like twice a year.
Yeah.
But no, I think this is a very difficult tactic. So I'd probably rather say get people on board that know how to write.
Okay, so you would first of all do some kind of internal research in your company and find people who are motivated enough to write blog posts.
Yeah, well, I would actually not try to do it internally. My point is try to find external people, copywriters that can help you, agencies that can help you, or at least assist you. I would do that. But if there's someone else who has made it work, then convince us or share your story.
Yeah, I think with the external, for example, agency, there's a challenge of like
definitely
getting them to write about your brand using their voice and their experience, because as you know, there's already so much information out there on Google and on the web. How do you put your stamp on it? The only way to put your stamp on it is by having your story in it, and a content writer doesn't know that story.
I agree. No, that is very true. You know, if you can do it internally, it is way better probably than any content writer could do it. But I do think though you need someone at least to push you or assist you. If you do it all internally, who's going to keep people accountable?
Yeah.
Then you need the right structures, because it's a big effort to make this work. So yeah, generally it's better to do it internally. But then it's also good to just get content out consistently. Consistency is sometimes also what creates something good.
Yeah, I mean, I believe in this philosophy of standardization comes first before optimization, because a lot many times people think about optimizing every little piece of it, and and then they don't do it. But if you look at our journey, for example, the first video which we produced was good, but when you compare it now, it has a huge difference in terms of quality, in terms of preparation and content and quality, overall everything. So finally, okay, there's one more thing which I wanted to ask, which kind of applies for both of us. Which tools do you use in lead gen for obviously promoting the SaaS blog? And I'll obviously share the tools which we use in Apex Show for promoting the business blog.
Yeah, so it all ties back to search engine optimization and ranking the content. We use Ubersuggest for keyword research. We use Ahrefs, great SEO tool. Otherwise, we use Chrome extensions. I have an extension. I think it might even be the Ubersuggest one, where you see the search volume directly in the Google search field.
Yeah.
So I just type in, let's say, online form designs, and then it gives me all the other Google Suggest options. we use keyword.com for tracking keywords. We obviously use Yoast SEO, like the most basic in that sense, but it's a good one just to get your on-page, like the on-page optimization done. So we use those. Ahrefs is the best one. Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay. Yeah, these are kind of common tools. The only two tools I think we use differently. One obviously is Google Search Console.
True.
I think which you use
I should have
as well.
said that. Yeah.
Yeah. So Google Search Console tells you if you rank already for certain keywords and your positioning and your impressions for a particular keyword. That becomes then the impetus for the blog, which we write. The other one which we use is called Surfer SEO. I don't know whether you know about Surfer SEO. It's like this AI tool which tells you what top 10 content pieces have in common. So for example, if you want to talk about landing pages, and if you type landing pages in Surfer SEO, it will tell you a statistical kind of backdrop of what these 10 pages have in common about landing pages, whether it's optimization keyword, or whether it's unbounce, or whatever those little keywords are, which are shared among these 10 top positions. If you then produce a content piece which then includes these keywords, as a start, and then add more on top of it, that probably can, again, these are like futuristic terms, there's nothing which justifies, okay, this is the route which you should take, but to me it feels like that is the starting point where you would add these keywords and then add a story on top.
Okay, so you're saying this tool, I haven't tried it, is based on other top performing articles?
Yes, so it takes the 10 SERPs which appear, and then collates all that information, tries to find relevancy for different keywords in there, and even like questions. So for example, if they answer a question, it will pull those questions and will tell you should be writing
That's
about
pretty
this.
good.
Yeah.
Yes, although we do that already manually. That's the kind of the standard workflow, just understanding what's working and then figuring out how you can make it better or come up with something new. I wanted to ask you just one more thing here at the end, because that's what matters for businesses. How can a business generate leads from blog content marketing?
Okay, that's a good question, and that kind of ties into the funnel. So you have like an awareness funnel where somebody is like, let's say, problem aware, solution aware, product aware, and eventually fully aware. So you would write usually your blog topics on problem aware and solution aware stuff. So somebody has a problem, they type it in Google, they see that problem in your blog post, and you define the answer for that problem. So if you now have to take them to the next step, which is product aware, you would then have lead magnets. So you would have let's say an offer where somebody puts just their name and email, nothing more than that, because at that point they're not ready to buy. So they're just like researching about their topic, they want to know more about this problem, and now you tell them about, hey, by the way, this is the product which we have which solves this problem. But they're not ready to buy at this stage, so you simply want to get their name and email. And at that point then you start your email marketing. So that's where the email nurture sequencing and the email offers will kick in, depending on what topic they're invested in, and so you would segment these people out and send them
good. That's very good. I have one point to add. For B2B business, in case they are ready to become your client or to inquire, you should have a top menu, the header menu, with a big bright button of your call to action, like contact or get in touch.
Absolutely, 100%. You would always define your main call to actions in your header, footer, or maybe in the sidebar. You make it obvious. Buttons which are obvious get clicked. That's what I say to people.
Would you make the header static?
Yes, because then it's always there.
Nice. Okay, that's great. I think that we covered so much things here. I think that's it, right?
That's pretty much it. I think there's so much more, but I think in the future videos we will cover more in-depth topics.
Yeah, that's great. Cool. That was very interesting to chat, and I hope you got a lot of value from that. And let us know in our Facebook group or through any other channel that we have what other topics you'd be interested in. And see you next time.
Bye.
Thanks for watching this video. If you've enjoyed the content, there's a lot more coming.